After the Second World War, this became base for Yugoslav Navy and Yugoslav Army. Until the 1990s, there were 38 military objects built on the island. Cold War started in 1945. It officially ended in 1991. On one side, there were NATO countries, and NATO was formed in April of 1949. As a response to that, 6 years later, communist countries formed Warsaw Pact in May of 1955. In 1961, in Belgrade, the non-aligned movement was formed, and after the United Nations, it was the largest grouping of the countries in the world. Although Yugoslavia was in a non-aligned movement, it was very much in the Cold War. Yugoslavia exits the Second World War as a winner. It was a socialist country, and as such, it was oriented towards communist bloc. But in 1948, there was a split between Tito and Stalin, and Yugoslavia was on the eve of invasion from the Eastern Bloc. So it started getting aid from the West, but ideologically it was opposed to the West, and because of the crisis in Trieste, it was on the edge of the war with Italy. So Yugoslavia was in fact between NATO and Warsaw Pact, and its army was in a high level of preparedness. Adriatic Sea is the branch of Mediterranean Sea. It divides the Dinaric Alps from the Apennines. The greatest width of Adriatic is 200 kilometers, and the greatest length is 800 kilometers. Adriatic Sea dimensions are small. A ship traveling at the speed of 30 knots will cross Adriatic for some 3 hours. Plane flying at the speed of 880 kilometers per hour will be on the other side for some 11 minutes. One of the largest bases on the island is Stupisce. Stupisce is located not so far from Komiža. Those are camouflage entrances to the underground of the Stupisce missile base. Missile battery was a basic unit of anti-ship missile defense. There were 5 missile batteries along the Adriatic coast, and they were stationed in Radovic in Boka Kotorska, today's Montenegro, on Lastovo, Mali Lošinj. One reserve was in Divulja close to Split, and this one on Vis. Guard's house. In 1979, Yugoslavia bought 10 self-propelled missile launchers from Soviet Union. They were equipped with the P-21 and P-22 missiles. Maximum range of the missile was 80 kilometers. They would fly at 25 to 50 meters above sea surface. Interval between 2 launches on the launcher was 7 to 9 seconds. Probability of a precise hit around 80%. And what you can see here is a depot for the missile with the massive protective doors. The first stage of the missile launch was the solid fuel, but the main stage was liquid fuel, which means it was toxic, so this was a toxic environment. These tunnels were in fact shelters for one missile battery, and one missile battery was in fact one self-propelled launcher, 4K51 Rubeš, equipped with 2 missiles. Here we have CIA documents from late 1970s about Yugoslavia acquiring a Rubeš system. Let's go below the missile base. Those are the positions for the coastal batteries, And in the background we can see the island of Bišova. On the right side is Svetac Island. The system of coastal defense was made of stationary and mobile artillery batteries of various origins and calibers. One battery consists of 3 to 6 pieces of artillery weapon and some 50 to 60 troops. Until the 1990s, Yugoslavia used 5 types of coastal artillery guns: 90mm D51, 88mm M36, 130mm M46, 85mm M39, and 100mm M86. Altogether, there were 74 coastal batteries along the eastern Adriatic coast. Vis was the island with the most of batteries, 7 of them. This is Italian gun from the Second World War. Yugoslav army used it until the 1990s. The type is D51 90mm. It was designed in 1939. The weight was almost 9 tons and the firing range some 17 kilometers. The concept of building all those underground facilities was the ability for the troops inside to survive for some time a possible nuclear clash. The purpose of coastal batteries was defense of inner waters, and all 74 of them were intertwined. Our way to our next destination, which is Vela Glava command post. We visited Stineva Cove. Stineva Cove is one of the most beautiful coves in Adriatic Sea. Vela Glava was the main command post on the island of Vis, but in the case of nuclear clash, it was also the main command center for this part of Adriatic. The existence of this command post was so secret that the troops that served on the island didn't know that it exists. At the beginning of 1960s and normalization of relations with Soviet Union, Yugoslavia acquired 10 Osa-class missile boats, which were a radical turn in Yugoslav naval doctrine, and it increased its firepower and also its reach. Then in 1970s, Yugoslavia started to produce its own missile boats, Radio Končar class, and by mid-1980s it built 6 of them. In 1970s, it also acquired Glava-class Soviet missile frigates, and in 1980s, Yugoslavia produced 2 of its own missile-class frigates, Kotor-class. It also had 14 torpedo boats and 6 Una-class submarines, 2 Sava-class submarines, and 3 Harry-class submarines. Altogether, it had 11 submarines and plenty of other vessels, patrol boats, landing crafts, and various others. Okay, so to coordinate all these forces, it built control and communication strongholds, like this one, Vela Glava.